Sanjeev, I think we can start. Hello?
Okay, yeah. Hello. Can
Yep.
someone make sure if I'm audible?
Yes, you're audible. Go ahead.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Good evening to everyone present here. I myself am Sanjeev Bala from Satyabama University. So I'm really grateful for getting this opportunity of being the host for today. And the book, what we were supposed to do today was Hind Swaraj by Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi. So as far as like I had so much personal memories with this book because this was one of my civics chapter in ninth grade, so it was kind of reminiscence for me. So while reading, even I got few ninth grade memories as well as the situation what MK Gandhi wrote the book, and I was actually like kind of it was like somewhat relatable that the book got released in 1909 and the British banned it by 1910 because the views that Gandhi expressed in that book was so explicit, and everything actually worked out really well, and it was actually for the future India, and it was actually more relatable after independence. It was really a great book for maybe like it would be like a very good thing if people went through it because the visions what Gandhiji expressed was really nice. And now, like putting forward does like please be open to share your opinions here also, and I'm really looking forward to hear your part also. Hello.
So this book made me think that the present day politicians behave just like the Brits. To paraphrase the article, the Brits take away the money of the Indians, give their favorite people all the important posts, are blind to the feelings of the Indian people, and abuse the Indian people. So I don't see any difference between the English and the Indian politician of today. So that's what I initially thought.
Well, actually, that was really a great point because I thought I wouldn't say that openly in that session. But thanks for being so bold and telling that out loud because even I felt the same. Because in another part of the chapters, what we read was like newspapers. Like in those days, newspapers were according to what the Brits wanted them to print or the what the England people wanted them to print, and that's what people trusted, and that's how they casted the votes. And now too it's like the same because we do trust what the news channel says and we don't know what really the truth is under what circumstances we do live in, and we actually trust and forget so easily. So that's what even I found it as a like a correlation with what Gandhiji said it like long back, maybe a century ago. Yeah, that's what even I found as a relation. So does anyone else have some points to make or their opinions, visions, views?
So yeah, I have something that I felt when I was reading the book. So I mean the excerpt. So he says that we understand that people have different opinion of even common ideas. So for one person, Swaraj could mean one thing. For another, independence or Swaraj could mean something else. So that is something very beautiful to take from there. That everyone has a different perspective. So I might be saying I want freedom, but my whole perspective of that is different from somebody else's the way of looking at it. That is very interesting. Maybe we can open a dialogue on that. What some common phrase means to different people. That'll be interesting.
Yeah, like ideas and visions are not restricted to one perspective, because like most of the things what we've been taught is like one question, just one answer. But mostly we actually like forget to think about the part that one question can have many answers as well, because each problem actually doesn't come with a unique solution. It does have a lot of solutions, but we just fail to understand that each solution is somewhat, it has a percentage of its success. As in, a solution might have a 70% success rate, some might have 90, or some might even have a 100% thing. But even like as you mentioned, yeah, that is actually one thing that even I saw it there too. And yeah, this could be actually put up somewhere that most people could understand, because like as I told, nowadays people think there is only one solution for each problem they face. Yeah. So yeah, does anyone have any other views about civilizations or about England's parliament? Even I felt really like Gandhiji was so like bold enough to say, like, to call the parliament as a sterile woman as well as a prostitute. So does someone have any visions about that? Or anything else would also be open, would be fine.
So this part, when you read that part, you kind of get shocked. But then I went back to actually reading the whole book from the start. And in the beginning, there is a disclaimer. Actually, in the beginning, he says that I know that I wrote this, that I was against the parliament system, but now I am in the. This was a preface written in 1938. So he says, now I am in the process of forming the democratic parliament. So I think that India is not ready for the kind of Swaraj that I have in mind. So that's something he adds. The beauty of this is something which is, I think, the Gandhian way of thinking, which is in which this is another statement he makes in the beginning of the whole book, in which he says, "I am not interested in being consistent. I have discarded many ideas and learned many new things." Now, this is a very interesting thing, and our the one book that we read, No Destination, Satish Kumar is told by Vinoba Bhave that be like a river, keep flowing, because if you are stagnant, if you stay in the same place, you become like a stagnant pond. So you have to keep changing, and I think this is I didn't know that this was fundamental to this so-called Gandhian philosophy of movement. And so in the same book, the part which we read about the parliamentary system is kind of there's a reversal after 3 decades.
Yeah. Actually, if you like, I really loved your point. And if you had noticed that in every, like, most of the conversations between the editor and the reader, the editor, as in Gandhiji, would make a statement that, like, I don't know if you take my point, and he will always say that this question is totally useless. That is because the reader, that is the person who's questioning Gandhiji, wasn't sure that would it be possible in India, as you said. But Gandhiji was pretty confident that his visions and views, and he was so strong about it that it would surely be implemented, and he had so much confidence that his vision would be right. And to add upon to your point, and it was really true, like most of the like points were like after the preface was edited, like most of the visions what he had back there in 1909 was actually implemented after independence. So like It's not necessarily like there should be only like it's like you can have hopes on what is going to happen, and sure can make statements regarding that, and you can make plans for things that people think it won't happen forever. You could actually make plans. That was what I learned and I felt from Gandhiji's philosophy. So any mutual feelings or any other feelings that anyone felt? Does anyone else have anything to tell about or to talk about? Any views, expressions, visions? No? Like, yeah? Hi. True.
See, I really like to ask. I mean, just taking what you said just now, Aditya, a little forward. Question to think about is: had we not been, subjugated by the Brits, would we have joined this race of civilization? Would we have been happy in our villages? Would there been just a handful of towns in India or cities in India like Mumbai and all, but most of the population still lived in villages? Is it because the Brits made us feel inferior and we got into this whole rat race of being equal to the rest of the world that we lost the values that was dear to our civilization? What do you all think?
I think yes, because like this takes me back to the conversation that we had a few days ago on the Buddhist way of economy, and how economy has to be customized to um, different communities and their needs. So I think definitely yes. Once the British came, I think they disrupted a whole cultural system that was already existent and thriving. So, as in cultural system, in the sense that it also kind of fed the economy and took care of the well-being of the people. So, I felt at least in times before the British, we were not just being producers at large, but we were also, very well ahead of the times in terms of craft or even our own indigenous technologies, which suited us very well. So when the British came, I think in view of modern civilization and our uh, you know and us getting into aping the West in most of the situations, I think we have lost much of our individuality, and situations would have been much better if the British had not come.
Well, actually, to make things clear, Gandhiji actually mentioned that there are some things that is need to be copied or like taken reference from the British as well. So because even at that time, they actually glanced upon to the past and saw what they've improved from. Because like in the chapter of civilization, Gandhi makes reference to the European lifestyle and how the Middle Eastern and the Asian people are actually trying to adapt to the European culture in order to like cope up with the race what's been running through time. So yes, I do agree with the point that totally copying would have lost our culture. But Gandhi also made sure that there are some things we might wanted to like learn from them, because as an opinion, not only did they oppress us, but they did actually gift us some like things while they left. Because as my personal opinion, the railway system what we have now, like what the Britishers did for their own good, was actually one thing that it should have taken time for the Indians to do post independence, because they actually laid the foundation and it was easy to move on more with that. Like, even though they actually like took the money and as well as favored themselves while being here, they were actually like kind of parasite, they actually exposed parasitic behavior, but actually like we were equally kind of bad hosts as well. So this is my opinion. So like I'm really open to hear out from you guys as well, like any cross comments or any oppositions or mutual feelings. No? Yes?
Actually, Sanjeev, for many, many years, this is what you said is exactly what I thought. But the book clearly talks against the railway system imposed, made by the Brits also. What Gandhiji says is because of the railway system, one point, I mean, people could not go to all these char dhams, these religious places, because they had to walk to it. Now you catch a train and go. So all those religious places have all become filthy and polluted and corrupt. And then he talks about things which are locally produced are being sent off to far off places just to make more money. So it's increasing greed and other things, scarcity. I think he talks about famine, because famine is being produced because of the railway system. So he actually has one chapter about the railways also in that, where he talks of the ills of the railways. There's one more point you mentioned, which I wanted to talk about. Anyway, it'll come to me.
Yeah, actually, like I actually went through the part when there are ills for the railway system what the British established, but actually, like there are pros and cons for each and everything we do. So, like for example, the railway system was a really big step. Like for example, 1947, like that's when we got our independence, and post after that, it wasn't like it wouldn't have been easy for like we were actually a budding nation and we still are like a growing budding nation. So it would have been really really hard to like directly bring in the railways as such, like put down tracks all over the nation and get through with railways, and like the process would have been larger and more complicated if they had not done. I'm not like justifying the part that the ills weren't like I'm not justifying the part, but still like there are a few things to be considered in that thing. So like mostly like it could have been like as we said long before, like there could be any like site of like any perspective of seeing a problem or seeing a solution to it. So as like there are pros and cons, so I do accept with your points about the ill of railways, but I also felt that it was a very good pro on the part of British. So totally like yeah, open to suggestions. Any more?
I think there are like two types of models here. So one is where the entire nation is well connected and things are moving across from one state to another easily. More of a like within the country, it's a globalized system, and the other is a very fragmented system where all locally things are working well, and there is lesser connectivity between systems. So these are two ways, and I think we adopted the integrating the entire nation together. In fact, that was one of the things that happened after the British left. Is that all the states they all came together. Earlier, we were all more separate under different rulers. They came under one head. So this is what happened now. Like we can always speculate how it would have been if it was
Speaking
all
of independence,
separate states. We don't know like how it would have worked. Even after independence, if it was less connected and things were not moving and locally produced things was only getting sold there, that's a completely different scenario. I don't know. We would have been a very unique nation.
yeah, speaking of independence, actually, like as Ms. Janani said, like one of the reasons why we got like kind of under the rule of British was because we got fragmented. and we were under each like we had our own rulers of each region, and that was one easy thing that the British could get hold of. And actually even the East India Company, which was under the British, actually started like from small segments, and they started buying out cities and towns all over, and that's how they took control. So like as Ms. Janani said, we could actually take this as a like kind of a pro also, but there is always like pros and cons, as I said before. Like I'm totally sorry for repeating the point, but that's how it is actually running here now. So yeah, like it had its own like pros and cons. So do you have something to say?
Yeah.
Yeah,
See, the
please.
thing to understand is what is Gandhiji trying to say. So what I'm understanding is he's trying to reduce the scale of man to what he really is. For example, he says, why the railways? Why does a man have to travel from one end of the country to another? Why can't he just use whatever distance his legs can walk? Now, what is the meaning of that? Actually, if you see what he's saying in the definition of civilization that he's saying civilization, the Indian civilization, the tendency of the Indian civilization is to elevate the moral being, and that of the Western civilization is to propagate immortality.
Yeah.
Now, that's a very interesting thing. I mean, you can think more about it. Immortality means I have to leave, I have to make so much money, I have to leave something for my next thing, I have to be there, my name has to be there. So, that is the difference. And what's happening is that I think we're losing this completely, because I don't think children nowadays are even interested in any moral stories, or they're so busy watching all these cartoons. I don't know. I mean, I don't watch present day cartoons, so understand is there that kind of moral corruption in from that early age, or our children given at least when we were young, we were given some sort of a moral. There was always moral lessons to be learned all the time.
Yeah, like I totally agree with your point, because I was shown the moon when I was fed with food, and nowadays the kids are shown to the phone before they're fed with food. And to make like what I also felt in the civilization part was, even though Gandhi like gave a like kind of a moral definition for civilization, but he actually supported modernism. If you had noticed, he was actually like through modernism, but like Gandhiji was actually like too much optimistic, and I think that he might have failed to notice some things, because even though the European people tried to get immortal and all, like the immortality concept, like as you told, but the thing is we do love to get into the modern world, and we do love technology. So I think maybe Gandhiji might have failed to think in that perspective, because like things have been made easier, because for example, even taking the railways for as an example, comparatively the advantages are more than the disadvantages. Yeah, the disadvantages are there, like they are actually supposed to make we are supposed to consider that also, but comparatively the advantages are more, and that's why maybe maybe Gandhiji was on the side of the disadvantages part and not the advantages, because as one of the people said here, like it actually connected and reduced the fragmentation what India had. So even in the civilization part, Gandhiji supported modernism really well. So what I felt was, maybe he failed to notice that point, or he missed out to notice that point, that this railways part could also be an improvement, and it could also be a boon and not a bane. So does anyone have anything to tell about it?
Actually, I don't think that we can't say whether he failed to notice. I don't. That was his opinion that it didn't have to be connected. He felt that maybe it was not required for it to be connected. It was his perspective that things work the way it is, and we don't need to probably connect the nation by rail, and it will help local communities grow better. Why that probably didn't work out was the nation, like the entire nation was on the side of the advantages. They wanted the connectivity. Less people were supporting these kind of unique thoughts which are which don't look towards modernity. Like it was looking as if it was a more conservative thought. So I guess more people did not want to support such a thought. That's what I think.
Like why I had to use the phrase like he didn't notice, because he was like while writing the book, yes, I do agree he was like a kind of a non-famous, like not that famous a person, but actually today we are here studying like maybe like reading out the novel because it's Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi's book, like the father of a nation's book. Maybe he could have done some things in detail before like giving out such an opinion, because we do know that there are people called Gandhians who just follow Gandhiji's thoughts and philosophies so blindly, and maybe he could have driven them into the disadvantageous part and not the advantageous part. That is what that made me use the word, he, like the phrase, he might have not noticed or failed to notice, to make things clear. So does anyone have like something to tell regarding Gandhiji's philosophy and Gandhians?
I have not read much about Gandhian philosophy or Gandhian principles of life, but from reading this excerpt, I felt maybe the definition to modernism he gives is different. Time and again, he keeps telling that it's open to perspectives and different people can actually give their own thought to it. So in that way, I think even modernism is something to be debated about. For Gandhiji, maybe modernism did not essentially come from connecting different parts of the country by railways or roads. And it could also mean that maybe Gandhiji also thought about technology already connecting people without actually physically being connected location-wise by rails, roads, and other transport systems. So, it's just my something that just came up in my mind when we were discussing modernism from Gandhiji's perspective view.
Yeah.
I have something to add on.
Yeah, please.
Actually,
please.
I'm not sure whether Gandhiji was, weighing down the advantages over disadvantages over all of these modernization and railway and anything of that sort, but rather, he was a very rooted person in the sense that, let it be the way he lived, the clothes he wore, his concept of the 5 mile radius, which actually means like what Vimal was also saying, how much your feet can actually take you. So that's the distance you can walk, and within that radius, whatever you get, you eat, and whatever materials is available within that radius is what you build with. And so in that sense, I think he was very rooted, because that means that he was responding to that particular context, uh, talking about the Indian context. Like, I'm sure he wouldn't have introduced the idea of khadi if he were, I don't know, elsewhere, maybe like some snowy places and all. Like, it just shows how he was rooted to the particular context and how that made sense. Um, like right now, I mean, we had this conversation previously also in one of the sessions, where we were saying that, even though geographically there are so many disparities in the, how to say, within India itself, there are like so many differences in geographical context, but yet all the houses look same, people wear the same clothes, like I don't know, Western clothes or whatever. People can eat anything at any point of time, at any point of the year, even though if it's seasonal or not. And that makes us, like, how to say, the aspect of immortality thing comes back. And it's not, you aren't living with how life and nature um, is throughout the year. Like, you're not, like, how to say, responding to it as in an organic or like in a natural manner, but rather going against it, saying that no, I can be anything at any point of time. So I think that's something that might have been, at least according to me, I thought of it like that. He was just a very rooted person, and very, how to say, aware of the Indian context. And that's why maybe he was against all of the modernization and things that were introduced.
Actually, yeah. So anyone else, any thoughts? Actually speaking, like when someone told that Gandhiji, like I hope you have heard about the promise what Gandhiji's mom like asked like him before going out into foreign nations for studying. So that actually tells him how rooted he was. Like does anyone know that like thing, why like the promise is what his mother asked, or like it's totally out of context, but just some out of the thing knowledge to just prove that he was too rooted? So does someone else have anything to tell?
வணக்கம், தமிழ் பேசலாமா? சஞ்சீவ்,
Yes sir.
தமிழ்ல பேசலாமா?
Yes sir.
ஓகே. ஒரு
கண்டிப்பா சார்.
மனிதன்
Is everyone okay with Tamil? I hope yes. Okay. Sir ரொம்ப விட்டு கேக்குது சார்.
இப்போ கேக்குதா?
சார் கொஞ்சம் பேசுங்க சார், லைக் டெஸ்ட் மாதிரி.
இப்போ கேக்குதா?
கேக்குது சார்.
ஒரு மனிதன் இறந்து 150 வருடம் ஆகியும் அவனை இன்றளவும் நாம் தினம் தினம் கொன்று கொண்டிருக்கிறோம். அவன் பெயர் காந்தி அப்படின்னு ஒரு டெக்ஸ்ட் ஒன்று இருக்குன்னு வச்சுக்கோங்களேன். காந்தியை ஏன் பலகாலம் ஏற்றுக்கொள்ள முடியவில்லை என்றால் காந்தியை நம்மால் புரிந்து கொள்ள முடியவில்லை. அதுதான் நம்மால் காந்தி ஒரு பொழுதும் அவரை ஏற்றுக்கொள்ளவே முடியவில்லை அப்படின்னு டெக்ஸ்ட் ஒன்று இருக்குன்னு வச்சுக்கோங்களேன். ஏன் அவ்வளவு பேர் வந்து காந்திக்கு அகெயின்ஸ்டாவும் காந்திய புரிஞ்சிக்கவே முடியல காந்திய அப்படின்னா, ஏன்னா அவர் சொல்றது வந்து ரொம்ப காம்ப்ளெக்ஸாவும் அதே சமயம் ரொம்ப சிம்பிளாவும் இருக்குன்னு வச்சுக்கோங்க. காந்தி ஒரு டெக்ஸ்ட் ஒண்ணு இருக்கும், நான் இன்று காலை என்ன சொல்கிறேனோ நீ அதை ஏற்றுக்கொள், நான் நேற்று சொன்ன உண்மை நேற்றுடன் முடிந்து விட்டது, இன்று காலையில் நான் சொல்லும் உண்மைதான் எனக்கு இது உண்மை என்று தோன்றுகிறது, நீ அதை அப்படியே ஏற்றுக்கொள்வாயா அப்படின்னு டெக்ஸ்ட் இருக்கு வச்சுக்கோங்களேன். ஒரே ஒரு 4-5 கோட் மட்டும் இருக்கு, நான் மட்டும் நான் படிச்சிடுறேன். பிம்பங்களை நாமே உடைக்கிறோம், அது பிம்பம் என்பதனால்தான், பிம்பமே ஒழிய உண்மை அல்ல என்று எங்கோ நம் ஆழம் உணர்த்திருப்பதனால்தான் அப்படின்னு. why do we break these imageries அப்படின்னா, அது ஏன்னா அது இமேஜரிங் நமக்கு தெரிஞ்சதுனாலதான். அது பிம்பம் இல்ல, அது உண்மையும் இல்ல, எங்கோ ஆழத்தை தெரியற ஒண்ணுதான் அப்படிங்கிறத வச்சுக்கோங்களேன். உறவுகள் காலத்தில் ஓடும் நீரில் மிதக்கும் சரகுகள் போல சொல்கிறான், சரகுகள் விலகுவதும் நெருங்குவதும் அவற்றின் கையில் இல்லை, காலத்தில் இருப்பதை உள்ளூர உணர்ந்திருந்தாலே போதும் அப்படின்னு டெக்ஸ்ட் வரைக்கும் வச்சுக்கோங்களேன். அப்ப என்ன, ஒவ்வொரு காலகட்டத்துக்கும் அதுக்குமான ஒரு டெக்ஸ்டும் ஒரு ரெலவன்ஸும் இருக்குன்னு வச்சுக்கோங்களேன். நம்ம ரயில்வேஸை பத்தி அவ்வளவு பேசணும்னு வச்சுக்கோங்களேன். ஆனா மிஷினரிய வந்து ஒரு காந்தியை பத்தின ஒரு புரிதல் வந்து எப்பவுமே என்னன்னா, காந்தி வாஸ் அகெயின்ஸ்ட் மிஷினரி, காந்தி வாஸ் அகெயின்ஸ்ட் தீஸ் மெனி திங்ஸ், ஹி வாஸ் அகெயின்ஸ்ட் தி டெவலப்மெண்ட் அப்படின்னா ஒரு ஜென்ரலான ஒரு பார்வை ஒண்ணு இருக்குன்னு வச்சுக்கோங்களேன். ஆனா கண்டிப்பா கிடையாது. காந்தி தான் கண்டிப்பா டெவலப்மெண்ட் தேவை, ஆனா அந்த டெவலப்மெண்ட் வந்து மக்களோட சார்ந்தா இருக்கணும், மக்களை பேஸ் பண்ணின ஒன்னா இருக்கணுங்கிறது தான் அவரோட இதுவா இருக்கு. அவரு ராட்டையில இருந்து தையல் போகிற காலத்துல வந்து ஒரு டெக்ஸ்ட் ஒன்று கேட்டிருப்பாங்க, நீங்க தையல் மிஷினை பத்தி என்ன நினைக்கிறீங்க, நீங்க ராட்டை அதுக்கு அகெயின்ஸ்டா இருக்கீங்களா அப்படின்னா, இல்ல கண்டிப்பா நம்ம பெண்களுக்கு தையல் மிஷின்ங்கிறது ரொம்ப ரொம்ப அவசியமான ஒண்ணு, என்னோட இது என்ன அப்படின்னா தையல் வந்து கம்ப்ளீட்டா மதத்தை வந்து ரீப்ளேஸ் பண்ணிருக்க கூடாதுங்கிறது மட்டும்தான் என்னோட வேண்டுகோளா இருக்கு அப்படின்னு வச்சுக்கோங்களேன். நம்ம காந்திய நீங்க யாரோ மென்ஷன் பண்ணாங்க, காந்தியவாதிகள் எல்லாருமே வந்து காந்தியை தான் இப்படி தப்பா புரிஞ்சுக்கிறாங்களா, இல்ல காந்தி சொன்னதை எல்லாரும் தப்பா புரிஞ்சுக்க மாட்டாங்களா அப்படின்னு. ஒரு 93 வயது நிறைந்த இந்தியாவிலேயே கடைசியா இருக்கிற பெண்மணி ஸ்வராஜையும் சர்வோதத்தையும் தீவிரமா காந்தி கூடயும் வினோபா கூடயும் இருந்த ஒரு பெண்மணி யாரு அப்படின்னா, இப்போ ரீசெண்டா பத்மஸ்ரீ வாங்கின பத்மபூஷன் கிருஷ்ணமா ஜெகநாதன் அப்படின்ற பெண்மணி தான் வச்சுக்கோங்களேன். அந்த அந்த அம்மாவுக்கு என்ன அப்படின்னா ஒரு ஒரு பெரிய ஒரு வருத்தம் ஒண்ணு இருக்கு வாழ்க்கையில. அந்த அந்த வருத்தம் என்ன அப்படின்னா, ஒரு நாள் அவங்கள மற்ற நண்பர்கள் பார்க்க போயிருந்தாங்க. பார்க்க போகும்பொழுது வெளியில வந்து ஒரு ஒரு புத்தகத்தை வச்சு படிச்சுட்டே இருந்தாங்க வச்சுக்கோங்களேன். அந்த அந்த புத்தகம் வந்து ஒரு ஒரு புத்தரோட புத்தகம் ஒண்ணு. அந்த புத்தகம் வந்து சொல்லுதான், நமக்கு வந்து ஆசைகள்லாம் இருக்கக்கூடாது, நமக்கு எந்த ஒரு அட்டாச்மெண்ட்டுமே இருக்கக்கூடாது அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு அந்த அம்மா அந்த அம்மா ஒண்ணு சொல்லுது, தம்பி பாத்தியாப்பா புத்தகம் இப்படி சொல்லியிருக்கு, ஆனா என்ன அப்படின்னா இந்த சேலைய நானும் ஒரு 15 வருஷமா நானும் இந்த ஒரே சேலையை தான் கட்டிட்டு இருக்கேன், இது கிழிஞ்சு போயிடுச்சு, சாயம் போயிடுச்சு, எல்லாமே ஆயிடுச்சு, ஆனா இந்த சேலைய தூக்கி போட மனசே வரலையே, எனக்கு இந்த சேலையோட இருக்கிற அட்டாச்மெண்ட் போக மாட்டேங்குதுல அப்படிங்கிறாங்க. அப்ப 93 வயசு கிழவிகிட்ட இருக்கிற இந்த ஒரு தன்மைதான் நான் காந்தின்னு ரொம்ப தீவிரமா நம்புறேன்னு வச்சுக்கோங்களேன். ஆனா என்ன அப்படின்னா, இப்ப காந்தி இந்த உலகத்திலேயே மிகப்பெரிய என்ஜிஓ யாரு அப்படின்னா அவர் காந்தி தான் வச்சுக்கோங்க. காந்தியோட பேரை சொல்லி நான் காந்தியவாதி அப்படின்னு சொல்லி கோடி கோடியா பணம் சுழற ஒரு ஏரியா யாரு அப்படின்னா அது கண்டிப்பா காந்தியா தான் இருக்கு. அப்ப அந்த மாதிரி ஆட்களாலதான் நம்மளால காந்திய பரிபூர்ணமா நம்ப முடியல, இல்ல காந்தியவர்களை பரிபூர்ணமா நம்மளால பார்க்க முடியலன்னு வச்சுக்கோங்களேன். ஆனா கண்டிப்பா கிருஷ்ணமா ஜெகநாதன் மாதிரியான ஆட்கள் நம்ம போய் சந்திக்க ஆரம்பிச்சோம், இல்ல அவங்களை பத்தி நம்ம புத்தகங்கள் நம்ம படிக்க ஆரம்பிச்சோம் அப்படின்னா கண்டிப்பா காந்தியம் பத்தியும் காந்தியத்தை பற்றியும் உள்ள கருத்துக்கள் கண்டிப்பா வேறுபடும் வச்சுக்கோங்களேன். இது ஒன்லி ஒன் ஹூ ரிசீவ் தி ஆல்டர்னேட்டிவ் நோபல் பீஸ் பிரைஸ் சொல்ற உலகத்திலேயே மிகப்பெரிய பீஸ் பிரைஸ் அவங்களுக்கு கிடைச்சிருக்கு. இட்ஸ் அபவுட் 80,000 ஸ்வீடிஷ் டாலர்ஸ், எவ்வளோ பெரிய ஒரு தொகைன்னு வச்சுக்கோங்களேன். அந்த தொகையை வந்து நேர எடுத்து நம்ம என்ன பண்ணுது, அந்த அம்மாவுக்கு என்ன வேலை அப்படின்னா அந்த பூதான் மூமெண்ட்னு சொல்லிட்டு வினோபா பாவே ஆரம்பிச்ச ஒரு இயக்கம் ஒண்ணு இருந்தது. இது ஐம் ஜஸ்ட் கோயிங் பேக் இன் பிளேஸ் டு வாக்கிங். நீங்க என்ன ஏன் காந்தி ஏன் நடக்க சொன்னாரு ட்ரெயினுக்குன்னு சொன்னீங்களே, அப்ப இந்த உலகத்திலே ரொம்ப அதிகமான டிஸ்டன்ஸ் எனக்கு தெரிஞ்ச இந்தியர் ரொம்ப தூரம் நடந்த இந்தியர் யாருன்னு கேட்டாங்க. எனக்கு தெரிஞ்சவர் வந்து வினோபா பாவே தான். இந்த வினோபா பாவே யாருன்னா காந்தியத்தால பின்பற்றப்பட்டு காந்தி வந்து சீரனாய் வந்து எனக்கு குருவாய் மாறின ஒருவன் அப்படின்னு சொல்ற ஒருத்தர் தான் வினோபா பாவே. அந்த வினோபா பாவேயோட நடந்த ஒருத்தன் தான் கிருஷ்ணமா ஜெகநாதன் இருக்காங்க. அப்ப அந்த காசு எல்லாத்தையும் அந்த அம்மா நேர இருக்கிற ஒரு குடிசை பகுதியில் போயிட்டு எல்லாரையும் கூப்பிடுங்க, சரி நீ வா எல்லாரையும் கூப்பிட்டுட்டு அந்த அம்மாட்ட இருக்கிற காசு ஒரு சல்லி காசு மிச்சம் வைக்காம எல்லாத்தையும் பிரிச்சு கொடுத்தது. how much lakhs of crores it converts into, all those were given each and every penny wise. உனக்கு இந்த வீடு கட்டணுமா இதை வச்சுக்கோ, உனக்கு படிக்கணுமா அதை வச்சுக்கோ. அப்ப அங்கதான் உண்மையா காந்தியம் வருதுன்னு வச்சுக்கோங்களேன். இது கண்டிப்பா காந்தியம் என்பது கண்டிப்பா ஒரு ஜிப்பாவை போடுறதுனாலயோ இல்ல ஒரு ஜோலனா பை போடுறதுனாலயோ இல்ல ஒரு ஒரு காந்தியம் பத்தின ஒரு டெக்ஸ்ட போறதாலும் இல்ல ஐ லவ் காந்தி டிஷர்ட் போறதுனாலும் கண்டிப்பா வர ஒண்ணு இல்லைன்னு வச்சுக்கோங்களேன். காந்தியம் என்பது ஒரு வாழ்க்கை முறை. அது நிறைய பேர் அம்மாட்ட போயிட்டு இந்த காந்தியவாதிகளை பத்தி என்னமா நினைக்கிறீங்க அப்படின்னு கேட்டா அந்த பாட்டி உடனே சிரிச்சுட்டு அது மாதிரிலாம் யாருமே இல்லைங்க, காந்தியவாதின்னு ஒருத்தர் இருக்கவே முடியாது. அது ஏன்னா ஒரு அது இட்ஸ் நாட் இஸ்டம், இட்ஸ் நாட் அ காந்தி இஸ்டம்னு கிடையவே கிடையாது. மார்க்சிசம் இருக்கு, அம்பேத்கரிசம் இருக்கு, பெரியாரிசம் இருக்குன்னு வச்சுக்கோங்களேன். ஆனா காந்தி இசம்னு ஒண்ணு கிடையவே கிடையாது. அது ஏன்னா அது ஒரு வாழ்க்கை முறை, அது அனுபவித்தால் மட்டும்தான் அது என்னங்கிற தெரியற ஒரு முறைன்னு வச்சுக்கோங்களேன். ஹிந்துராஜ் ஏன் ஹிந்துராஜ் எல்லாரும் படிக்கணும் அப்படின்னா அது காந்திய புரிஞ்சுக்க முடியாத நிறைய பேர் வந்து இந்த புத்தகத்தை படிச்சு நிறைய குழம்புறதுக்கான நிறைய வாய்ப்புகள் இருக்கான். அதனாலதான் இந்த புக்கு படிக்கணும். காந்தியோட ஆட்டோபயோகிராஃபி படிச்சோம்னா அது இது ஓரளவுக்கு அது காந்தியத்தை பத்தின ஒரு தெளிவை கொடுத்துரும். ஆனா இந்த புத்தகத்தை படிச்சாதான் நிறைய குழம்பு போயிட்டு காந்தி இன்னும் ரொம்ப வேக வேகமா போய் நம்மளால பிடிச்சுக்க முடியும் அப்படின்னு சொல்லியிருப்பாருன்னு வச்சுக்கோங்களேன். அப்ப என்னை பொறுத்த வரைக்கும் இந்த புத்தகம் ரொம்ப ரொம்ப முக்கியமான புத்தகமா நான் பாக்குறேன். அது இப்போதைக்கு நமக்கு நிறைய குழப்பங்களை தந்தாலும் கண்டிப்பா அது ஏதோ ஒரு வகையில நம்மள அது வேற ஒரு படிக்கட்டுக்கு கண்டிப்பா நகர்த்தணும் நான் ரொம்ப பரிபூர்வமா நம்புறேன். அதனால நீங்க ரைஸ் பண்ண பாயிண்ட்ஸ் ரொம்ப நல்லா இருந்தது சஞ்சீவ். ரொம்ப தேங்க்ஸ். நன்றி சஞ்சீவ்.
தேங்க்யூ சார். ஸோ வேற யாருக்கு ஏதாவது பாயிண்ட்ஸ் சொல்லணுமா? அண்ட் கௌஷிக் சார், ரியலி வெரி கிரேட் அப்சர்வேஷன் ஆன் த புக் சார்.
தேங்க்ஸ் சஞ்சீவ். இல்ல நான் ஆக்சுவலி உண்மையை சொன்ன புக் என்ன படிக்கவே இல்லை சஞ்சீவ், அதுதான் உண்மை.
இல்ல ஸ்டோரி லைன் ரொம்ப நல்லா இருந்துச்சு சார். அந்த சைட் ஸ்டோரிஸ் எல்லாமே வந்து ரொம்ப இன்ட்ரெஸ்டிங்கா இருந்துச்சு கேட்கறதுக்கு. பிகாஸ் லைக் அதான் நான் ஃபர்ஸ்ட் டைம் மென்ஷன் பண்ணியிருந்தேன் சார், இந்த மாதிரி நான் இந்த புக்கை வந்து கடைசியா லைக் இந்த புக்கை பத்தி, அதாவது ஹிந்த் ஸ்வராஜ் அப்படின்றது MK காந்தி எழுதின புக் ஒண்ணுங்கிறதே நான் 9th SST சிவிக்ஸ் சாப்டர்ல பார்த்தது. அதுக்கப்புறம் நான் இன்னைக்குதான் இதை திருப்பி பாக்குறேன். அது வந்து அப்படியே லைக் பழைய மெமரிஸ் டீச்சர் அப்படின்னு அவங்க சொல்ற மாதிரி இருந்துச்சு. அதனாலதான் ரொம்ப நல்லா இருந்துச்சு சார். தேங்க்யூ ஸோ மச்.
தேங்க்ஸ் சஞ்சீவ். நான் பேசுவோம் கண்டிப்பா, பேசலாம், நம்ம பேசுவோம்.
So does someone else has anything to say? Does someone have anything to say? Yes, no. So like if no one has anything to say, I actually wanted to raise a question. So like what are your guys' vision about Gandhiji telling that parliament is a sterile woman as well as a prostitute? Because I like previously mentioned my point that it was really a bold move to call the parliament both a sterile woman as well as a prostitute. So is there any thoughts or views from you guys? Like if it's a no, please switch on the mic and tell no, because it's like the silence is too like making me nervous. So well, coming back to my perspective about English, like Gandhiji's comments on the English Parliament calling it a woman as well as a prostitute, because like as Vimal mentioned earlier that it was like similar to today's political field what we are in today, as well as the politicians what they do. Like I really love the part when Gandhiji called the parliament a prostitute. No offense, because each like before it was 7 years once the government used to change, but now it's 5. So like parliament is considered a woman here, and so she's being used up by a different person every 5 years, and that was really a bold statement that he called the English Parliament a prostitute. And that's when also he says that there might be chances where we have to get traces from the English Parliament and use it in our Parliament post-independence. So that was really a great statement which I felt. So does anyone have any thoughts regarding this or something else? Any views, perspectives, thoughts, ideas?
Hello.
Yeah.
Different perspective. I thought it was a rather very harsh and unnecessary comparison. I don't know if I have the eligibility to comment on Gandhi's right. At this point, I felt it was.
I'm really sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
Like to make one thing clear, actually at the end of the statement, Gandhiji mentioned that it was really a rude way to tell that, but it was actually the most apt way to tell that as well.
Yeah,
he actually mentioned that at the end of the comment.
I read that. He said that, but I really thought it was very harsh, and I did not like the comparison made to a sterile woman, because it was almost as if saying that if once a woman is sterile, what is the use of her? Like, I didn't like that kind of comparison that he made, but yeah, that's just me. So I ignored that kind of like, that's okay.
I mean, that makes justice. That point actually, like if you notice, that makes justice why the British banned this book by 1910. That is technically a year after the book got released, and it actually started becoming a hit between the Indians. That's when it was like kind of like back in those days, like these books didn't have the disclaimer what we have today, and he was pretty open about what he said. And as you felt, I think it was pretty obvious that the Brits got really, really offended by calling their parliament as a prostitute as well as a sterile woman. So that actually makes justice why they banned the book by 1910. So does Janani have anything to add upon? Or anyone else?
Nothing like that. So I found it more of an offense to women than the parliament. I was thinking, a sterile woman, meaning that a woman who cannot reproduce is almost considered as a useless thing, element of society. That thought was what I didn't like. So yeah, maybe it's a little different.
Well,
That's what struck my mind.
I don't know if you noticed, but 1910 was a time when it wasn't the time when women had rights as equal as men, if you noticed. Because back pre-independence, gender equality wasn't one of the famous ideas as it is now. So maybe that makes sense. Maybe why Gandhi gave that. But I totally agree upon you, because the sterile woman part or the prostitute part hit me hard as well. But maybe I'm just having a kind of idea, maybe this would have been the reason why Gandhiji made a statement like that. So anyone has something to add upon or anything else to take it further?
Janani, shall we replace the word prostitute with gigolo?
With what?
Gigolo or gigolo? How do you pronounce that? Gigolo? Male prostitute is a gigolo, okay?
Okay, actually, even though you replaced it, but still Gandhiji called the English Parliament a she. Maybe he would have been better if you had so much concern towards it. Maybe you can change it to total he, and all the phrases would maybe change.
I just wanted to say that I have read this, My Experiment in Truth, and this is the second book of Gandhiji, written by Gandhiji, that I'm trying to read. I've not finished it, but it really reads better than My Experiments with Truth. It's my opinion, my feeling. I just felt it was more fresh. It was very to the point, and lot of things which he comes up with, ideas which are new, totally unique, his own ideas. It's very interesting the way this book reads.
I totally agree, because I don't know if you have come across Tirukkural, because it is supposed to be considered the gems of the modern world, because whatever it was told back then in the 6th or 5th century, I don't know, sorry for the misconception of the dates, but yeah, what wrote back then is totally useful till date. And Hind Swaraj is something like that as well, as far as I'm concerned. He actually passed out ideas that can be used today as well, and the problems what we face today as well. As Vimal previously mentioned, the politics part and the politicians and the money stripping of part and everything that is still happening today. And he gave solutions to most problems. He still states the problems what's been constant from 1910 till 2020, what we are living in now. So I really consider this book as a wonderful gift that can be passed on, a kind of a pearl of wisdom. So I hope everyone felt the same about Hind Swaraj. So does anyone else have any views to be spoken out?
Yeah, true. And even the part about civilization is so apt, whatever he said. I mean, we hardly have any time for leisure. That part it affected me. So we're all the time trying to serve ourselves, and I don't know, a lot of things, work, and we finally don't have time for the meaningful things, for leisure, for other things. We made life a little more complicated than how it should be, I guess. All those things, it really touched me when I was reading the civilization part. And I wanted to ask one question. I don't know if we have time for it, but what do people have feel about travel? Because this is one thing that we always now. I think everyone will have to travel and plan out to travel. So generally, anyone who I ask, they have passion for travel. But here we are talking about a totally different philosophy where we walk on foot. We don't go more than 5 miles. So I don't know how that all in today's life, or have we drifted too far? So what is anyone's thought on this?
Like, can you please rephrase, because I'm sorry, I couldn't understand. I'm really sorry for that.
No, I meant traveling, right? Like, so everyone wants to travel, like we go on holidays. So this, that's what I'm asking. How does that really fit in context? This is something that came to my mind. So how does it work in this context where you actually have to get all your necessities from 5 mile? So how does this fit in? And I do know that travel is one of the things that is the most unsustainable activities today. Like, means it is having too much of carbon footprint. But then
Yeah.
does it become one of the passions of everyone today? Like, we all like to travel, we want to go to new places, we want to explore. So there's sort of like a dilemma, a contrast. Am I clear?
I think I can't. Yeah, totally clear. Because to make your point, I think I can't make myself opinion here, because I have a hashtag #RKTraveler in my bio and in my Instagram page. So I think I won't be the appropriate person to answer your question, Janani. I'm really sorry. Does someone else have anything to say regarding Janani's question? Because it was really, really like the kind of the want question. So
See, actually, I have traveled all over the world, and it would be now to say that it's okay not to travel is like really funny, because after traveling to say like it's wrong. But then what I'm thinking is that when I have traveled, I always think that the anticipation to travel and the memories after traveling were more nourishing and more satisfying than the actually being in the moment of travel. Because when you're actually in the moment of travel, like I've been to Thailand where I was under the water snorkeling, and at that moment all I was worried about was this ocean engulfing me. But later when I remember all the fishes and all that, I was like, oh my god, what a divine thing I saw. But at that moment I was only thinking about survival. So I don't know, that's another thing to think about, is how is travel overrated? Because uh, that's one thing, if honestly speaking, if you're really brutally honest, does one really enjoy the actual process of traveling, or is it the anticipation, or then after it's over the thoughts about it?
Or also maybe the putting up of photographs and showing people that I traveled. I think that has also become a very big part right now. Like, trying to tell other people about our travel. I'm not saying these things are wrong. So don't get me wrong. I'm just saying these are
Absolutely true. I mean, earlier we would not have all that. We would talk about it. We would tell everybody about it. That was our way of showing off. Nowadays it's Facebook and whatever.
My take on travel is that I think traveling for pleasure would not be much of I feel the carbon footprint and the pollution and all that is because of the daily travel that we do, like from our home to our workplace, or traveling, due to shipping of commodity and all of that hustle bustle that happens inside the cities. So I think that takes up a larger part of the carbon footprint rather than traveling on uh, leisure and things like that.
well, actually, like I don't know about the rest of you people, but most, like, as far as I've seen, like we all like, I'm just considering not you guys, but the people who I am with, and like the friends I have, like we are all running towards social life, like we actually want to show ourselves that we have a really good life than living one. So I think that's where it begins to like show off people that we do like go outside, roam around, have a great. We are under a lockdown and we aren't supposed to move out of our place for unnecessary things, but there are people who move out just for like stories and status purposes. That's like one thing that moving out or roaming out isn't like a worth option to be opting for, but still that's what's happening now, if you all had noticed. So this is what my point and what I had to make myself clear in. So anyone else? So like, is that all? Is there anything else to say, or like, I think we have discussed it all. I think it's the end of the meeting, or like, if we have something to talk, we can really talk, because I'm hoping to see more and more views, because I've like taken back, like after today's meeting, I'll be taking back a lot from the book. So if someone has something to say, please do tell. Well, I wanted to thank such an interactive like crowd here. Like, thanks for being so interactive, because like a meeting, what I felt would have been just like online class. The teacher keeps on speaking, and you would be sitting with nothing but just looking or staring at the person who's teaching. But this was really an interactive session. Thank you so much, all.
Thank you, Sanjeev, Janani, and all the others. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hello. அண்ணா ஓகேவாண்ணா? ஆமாண்ணா, எல்லாம் கிளம்பிட்டாங்க. நம்ம 2 பேரும் இல்ல, ஆக்சுவலி நானே ஏதோ லைக் தேங்க்ஸ்ண்ணா. ஓ, நீங்க தான் கால் பண்ணீங்களா?